The following program is a Creative Magic Network production.
You're listening to the Frederick Bai Show, where sky is the limit and space is the place. Here's your host, Frederick Bai.
Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome. Come on in, sit down, relax. It's the Frederick Bai Show, and yes, this radio podcast is about unleashing your creativity. We talk to experts who step into the unknown. It is an inspirational, magical, intuitive radio podcast as we chat with charismatic enigmas. That's right, artists, people, authors from around the globe, like musicians, singers, radio hosts, business people. I am Frederick Bai, the man of the hour, the man with the power to sweet to be sour. Hey, I'm funky like a monkey, I sting like a bee, produce sweet honey, and I am pretty. I am your favorite French Canucker, and today we have somebody who I like very much. He's our host here on the Creative Magic Network. He has his own show, the What's You Excuse Show with Max Ivey. Yes, he's known around the world, ladies and gentlemen, as the blind blogger. And he has his great book that will be published in 2 weeks in audio. And the title of the book, he's the author basically of it. It's Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, a blind man's inspirational guide to success. How are you today, Max?
I'm doing pretty good, Frederick. As you can tell, I may have a little bit of a cold. I'm not exactly sure what it is yet because I haven't been to see the doctor. But when I tell people I'm going to show up, I show up because that's who I am and what I do.
That's pretty cool. It's funny because, you know, I never have colds. Like, I'm like, I don't know, I'm one of those. And as soon as I feel the cold, like rising up in me, like my body feels it. Do you know that syrup Buckley's? Do you have this in the U.S.? Buckley's?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, well, anyway, it tastes like crap, but my gosh, it eradicates the cold like bang like this. But I'm sure you have it in the U.S. or you have something equivalent of it.
Sarah Buckless.
No. It's syrup. Okay.
Syrup. Okay.
Well, yeah, but the thing is called Buckley's. Buckley apostrophe S.
Buckley's.
Yeah, Buckley's.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. I'm sure you have it somewhere, but you know, you should really get that. It's the only syrup or it's not a drug, you know, but it's the only thing that really eradicates my cold.
Yeah, and it's something I really need to think about because as I've found out just recently is I'm not one of those people who generally get sick very often either, but I usually, when it happens, it's usually after I have pushed myself to the point where my body just says, okay, you've used up enough energy. We're going to put you on your butt and let you rest for a couple of days or so. Okay. Back when we had the carnival, I used to get sick every year, the week or so after the season ended. And it was like, you know, you go every week and you just figure out a way to get open every week. And then after the year is over and you've got, you know, a couple of months before you have to go do it again, your body's like, it's, and considering that I do plan on doing a book tour, possibly doing some speaking along with it later this year to promote the book I'm working on now, I really need to figure out my health as far as traveling, and so, you know, having something like Buckley's as an option when I'm starting to get sick would probably be a good thing to know about. So I'll definitely be checking into that.
Because what, you get sick when you travel? Because I know, you know, is that why you think you got sick?
Well, I don't know. My brother and my nephew were both sick when I left. And so I'm wondering if maybe I didn't catch this thing, but just fight it off until I got home is what I think. But, you know, it's just that when you do travel, and I know this from, you know, it's a lot different when you're traveling in airplanes as opposed to raggedy old house trailers, and staying in motels as opposed to living behind the midway. Still, it takes a toll on your body, and so it's one of those things I'm definitely going to have to get a better handle on and take better care of my health. I thought I was doing pretty well until I got home, and it was like my nose started running, I started coughing, got a sore throat. And then yesterday...
Go ahead.
And then yesterday I realized that I had a promise to do a radio interview with a friend of Ryan Budolf's, and I just decided, well, I'm not one of these people who likes to give excuses or postpone, especially at the last minute. So I went ahead and did it. At the end of the show, he asked me to sing, and I sang, and he said I sounded good, and I thought I sounded good, but my mom was listening in the next room, and she said, "Max, that sounded painful."
Can you sing for us today?
If I have to, if you want me to. I tell people all the time, and they think I'm saying this as a joke. I tell them, so don't ever ask somebody who sings if they will sing, because they could have been in the hospital room in an oxygen tent the day before, and they will generally find some way. It's just one of those things. It's either they have an extra gene or they're missing one. I'm not sure which, but it's just one of those things that's pretty common among people who sing, and that they have. It's kind of like, you remember the movie Roger Rabbit, and they do that thing with the shave and haircut, and Roger Rabbit comes out and does 2 bits, and it's like it's in Roger Rabbit's DNA that whenever somebody does the shave and haircut, he has to do the 2 bits no matter what. And I think it's that way for performers, even amateur performers.
Right. Oh, okay. So talking about that, you just came back from New York. You had a great trip. You did a TV interview there. You did a bunch of things. So give us, now it's a week since you've came back?
Well, I got back Thursday evening, and now it's Tuesday afternoon, so that's about 4 days ago, or let's say half a week.
Right. So, okay, so a week, you went there because you won a contest, and talk to us a little bit about your impressions of the trip, because you went there because, man, you did your business, you did, you won it, you know what I mean? And you were able to promote your work and stuff like that. So give us your impressions on your trip, and did you learn anything from it?
Well, first, the trip was very enjoyable. Most everything that I wanted to do, I did. People in New York were very friendly and accommodating. Generally, all I had to do was tell somebody that I needed help to get somewhere, and somebody would let me follow them. During the course of the time I was there, I had one gentleman buy my breakfast. I had a taxi driver offer me his umbrella, and then another cab driver decide not to take my money when my card wouldn't work. 2 guys from England put me in a pedal cab when we couldn't find a cab or figure out how to tell Uber to get to the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center. It was a good week. The people at Rockefeller Center, they managed to help me at least make it around the ice rink once, so I could say that I went there and did that.
Awesome.
Yeah, the only real negative was at the Empire State Building, where they said that they didn't have any guides, and I still don't know if that meant that they didn't have any available, or that they never have them, and that they didn't want me going up by myself. To which a couple of New Yorkers responded, "What, do they think you're going to jump?" Apparently there's fences and glass, and there's really no way for anything bad to happen to you when you're up there, unless you're just truly motivated to do yourself in.
Okay.
So I went home from that. I was disappointed, and it costs quite a bit of money. It either takes time or money to get around New York City. You're either taking a combination of buses and subways, or you're doing taxis and Uber. And I thought, well, what if I invest what it takes for me to get to the 9/11 Memorial or the Statue of Liberty, and I get the same answer there? So for about 24 hours, I was disappointed in myself when I started thinking about it. I'm like, Max, you're better than this. You're not the kind of guy who would usually say just because one person turned you down that the next one might, or even worry about whether or not the next one might. You know me, Frederick. That's not the way I do things.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
So the next day, let's see, that happened on New Year's Day, which was Sunday. And I was leaving to come home Tuesday morning, and I started thinking, Max, I've got a 4-hour layover in Chicago. And they got this really big building called the Sears Tower that's within walking distance from the train station. So I thought, well, when I get to Chicago, I'll just go visit the Sears Tower. Unfortunately, my ticket was messed up, and I spent over an hour trying to get it changed to where I would end up where I wanted to end up instead of having to have somebody come a farther distance to get me. I wasn't successful. And of course, you know how it is. Whenever you're trying to get something like that handled, there's never enough help. There was one person on the desk. And in addition to trying to help me, the poor woman was having to give out the instructions that they have to give every time somebody new comes into the departure lounge. So it was not going to happen. I was not going to get my thing changed. But by the time I realized that, it was too late to get over, go up in the building and come back. But to me, the thing is that I had gotten back to who I am, and, it only took me a day. I wish I had, decided to go ahead and try the 9/11 or the Statue of Liberty, one or the other. Because in general in New York, when there wasn't staff available, people just, strangers that just happened to be around would offer to help. So I was very impressed with New York and New Yorkers, and they say that New Yorkers are pretty good at spotting tourists, and they're generally nice to tourists when they see us, unless they're criminal element, and then they look for us for a whole other reason. But I'll tell you what. The first day I was there, I met a woman who's a real estate agent, who, in addition to her normal practices, also uses Airbnb. When I mentioned I was waiting for somebody to meet me to go to my Airbnb residence, she thought I was one of her clients, and we got to talking. And after 2 weeks in New York, I could see living there. I know it's expensive.
Really?
Yeah,
because you're a good old boy from Texas, right?
Yeah. But I have to admit that the idea of living in a city where with a little planning you can get pretty much anywhere you need to get, and from Pennsylvania Station or Grand Central Station you can go to New Jersey, Philadelphia, pretty much anywhere on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. So I have to admit that even with the cost, the expensive cost of living in the area, I could see living there. I really could see it. I think about the only other place that I've been in my life where I felt like the only other time I felt like that about a place was in Austin, Texas. And that's been 30 years ago, so I'm sure that city has changed a lot since the last time I was there for any length of time.
Hey, you talked last time about the people, the naysayers. People were saying, "Hey, man, are you sure?" And it really pissed you off. You even wrote it on Facebook, and so did it settle? Did it, is it okay now? Are they,
Yeah, well, see, that's the funny thing is, up until the time I got on the train, all these people are really negative and concerned. But as soon as the trip started, all of those people had very positive comments, and they were all following everything that happened, and lots of likes and shares and comments on Facebook and Twitter. So it's like the people that were the most worried were the ones also the most pleased that I was having such a good trip. Right. It's kind of like, I guess, if you're standing next to a roller coaster and you're watching somebody ride it, and you're scared to death until they get to the top of that first hill, and then when you see them go down the rest of the ride, you're like, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, even my mom, my brother, a lot of the people who were really worried, and as I told somebody yesterday, I said, not only did they think it was a bad idea, they thought it was a horrible idea. So it's done. I had one. I fell down the first day I was there, but it wasn't a bad fall. It didn't affect my time in New York or cause any long-term injury that I know of. I was not robbed or beaten up, or as far as I know of, nobody has hit my credit card.
Yeah.
For anything that I purchased while I was gone, and we're definitely watching that, because it's just, in today's world, it's something you have to be on the lookout for.
Of course. All right. Once again, go ahead.
And the people I stayed with at the apartment that I was renting, Mark Sayer and Kurt Rablin, two really nice guys who made the stay very, very a whole lot better than it would have been if I'd have been staying in a hotel.
Right. All right. Once again, we're here with Maxwell Ivey. He's the author of Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, a blind man's inspirational guide to success. He's also a podcast host on the creative magic of the title of his podcast is What's Your Excuse with Max Ivey, known around the world as Blind Blogger. Yes, it's a great show. I love it. Go check it out. Check out Creative Magic Network. And anyway, so right before continuing this conversation, if you have a passion, something that fuels your curiosity, well, on top of getting fascinating interviews such as this one straight to your inbox, when you subscribe to our free Creative Magic community, you will get super cool exclusive in return, such as the ebook Happiness Quotes by the ambassador of happiness herself, Maura Sweeney, another one of our hosts. And this small book is an anthology of 25 inspirational quotes about living a happy life from the inside out. It is cataloged by Maura Sweeney, the ambassador of happiness, and further enhanced by her reflections. She offers information, anecdotal stories, and more to help underscore each contributor's quote. And she also provides suggestions to help you incorporate these maxims into part of your mental landscape. Ooh, yeah. All right. Now, you wrote a wonderful book, and I think your book is perfect timing for this time of the year, because this time of the year, it's the start of the year. We've set our goals on paper, we write them down. And your book, Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, a Blind Man's Inspirational Journey to Success, covers that. And now it's going to be in audio in 2 weeks, right?
Right. Yeah, it's going to be on Audible and iTunes. And then we're also going to make it available through my website directly, which is a financial decision, because everybody, at least I think most authors, want their book to be available in Audible and iTunes. That's like the gold standard, just like we all want our books to be available in Amazon and CreateSpace. However, these companies, in exchange for their giving us access to their huge audience, they take a good chunk of the gross. They take a lot of your money. And it's even worse with an audiobook. With Audible and iTunes, they will take 60% of the gross if you decide not to list your book anywhere else in audio. They will take 75% of the gross if you decide you want to sell your book other places in audio. Okay. So what I plan to do is similar to what I did with the ebook. Is my ebook is available on Amazon, and people can buy it directly from Amazon or CreateSpace, where I get where they take 30%, I get 70%, or they can buy it directly through me on my website, where I keep 95%. And it's it says that so the visitor to my website knows exactly why I'm encouraging them to buy it through me instead of through Amazon or CreateSpace, and it'd be the same with Audible or iTunes. But I am very happy that the book is going to be available in audio. It's another one of those cases where I entered a contest, not as prestigious a contest as the Amtrak Writer in Residence, but a new company that's offering services such as editing and formatting and recording audiobooks wanted to get some publicity, and so they ran a contest, and I entered. And I used all the sharing buttons to get my friends to help me win, and I won. And so I got my book recorded in audio for free. Didn't cost me nothing, but maybe an hour of my time total. So it's another one of those cases where just pressing send, just filling out an application paid off, because now I have a book that's available in audio. They generally charge $500 for what for a length of book that my book is, which it's a short book. I'll admit that it's 82 pages, but you can't judge the value of the book from the size or the length, because it does have a lot of good lessons, and I think the exercises are very applicable to.
Yeah. All right.
And you mentioned my recent television interview. The one thing that a lot of people have noticed from that TV interview is something that is in the book, and that is what I'm calling my 4 questions. And that is, first ask yourself, can I do it? And if you can do it, then take action right away and stop talking about it. Start doing something about it. If you can't do it, then can you learn it? And if you think you can learn it, then sign up for the course, reach out to a mentor, go online, go to podcasts, whatever. So if you think you can learn it, start learning it. If you can't do it and you can't learn it, can you get somebody else to do it for you? And that would mean, intern, volunteer, friend, family member, or actually hiring somebody to provide a service for you. And then if you can't do it and you can't learn it and you can't get somebody else to do it, then you just put it off the side for now and concentrate on the things that you can do something about. And when I went over that in the recent TV interview, there's been a lot of people who commented on how that spoke to them, and people have suggested that I do a talk on that, or maybe make that the subject of my next book or something. I don't know.
Right. Now, your book has, as you said, very interesting topics, very important topics in it. And step 1, you say begin by determining your end goal. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I think it's hard for a lot of people to determine their end goal. I think sometimes we don't have an end goal, or it's vague, or it's, how do you do that? And what characteristic, what should your end goal be? Should it be measurable? Should it be, what I mean? How do you do that?
Right. Okay. Well, let's start with the first part of the question, because I think there's more than one question in there.
Yeah.
But the first thing is it your goal? Too many times our goals are the goals that we see around us, or that have been drilled into us by our parents or our surroundings. So the first question is it your goal, or is it somebody else's goal? Because if it isn't really the thing that'll make you happy, then 1, you won't achieve it. And 2, if you did happen to somehow mess up and achieve the goal, you wouldn't be happy with the results. So that's the first part of that question. As far as results and success and whether or not it's measurable, a lot of that depends on the goal, because I tell people that we all have to decide what success looks like to us. To some people, success may be spending an hour a week with a volunteer group. To other people, success may mean having a million-selling album, or being in a feature movie, or having a talk show on Sirius XM satellite. It just depends on. So just like with deciding what your end goal is, you have to figure out what success looks like to you, because too many people spend too much time chasing dreams and chasing definitions of success that aren't theirs and aren't going to make them happy. Those are a couple of things I can mention. One of the things I recently did is, and I'll be the first to admit that I don't always do this in my own life, but I did it just recently, and that is when I won the thing from Amtrak, the Rider in Residence. You have the option of going anywhere in the United States that they travel on a regular basis, and often in my life, I've done what was expected of me. I've done what I should have done, or didn't do what I shouldn't have done. Or maybe sometimes I did what was easier as opposed to what would really make me happy. But on this particular occasion, I decided, based on where they travel, where is the one place you want to go? And I did the research to see what kind of train routes left from Houston, and it came down to a choice between New York and Los Angeles. And I finally decided on New York, because I've never been to New York before. I've been to Southern California several times, both as a kid and as an adult. So that was the decision. I wanted to go somewhere I'd never went before. And the other thing is when I just was trying to decide when to go, I'm like, most of my life I've enjoyed TV shows or movies that have had their Christmas episodes, and it just seems like that New York is at its best during the holidays. So while going in the holidays means that you're going to a city that's one of the busiest on the planet, and it's only going to get busier during that time of year. It's only going to get crazier, but it's also only going to have more energy. So I decided that's what where I wanted to go and when. And I told the people at Amtrak what I wanted to do, and they were like, well, you can, that was fine with them as long as I could tell them for sure that was what I wanted as, like that day, because even though it is their contest and you're traveling on their trains, they still have to make your passage fit in amongst all the people who are paying for travel. So,
right.
But that's I think a good example of where a lot of times we have to decide what we want as opposed to what we think we should want.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a big thing. It's like it's all this chatter in our minds, what we should do, what we should do, what would make mommy or daddy happy, But yeah, it is. I think it's done unconsciously for most part of for a lot of, for a big part of our lives. You know what I mean? These choices that we make based on what others want from us.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely unconscious. That's why you have to make a conscious effort. And I think it was easy for me to realize that I'd been doing this because I had this big opportunity come along, and it gave me, I guess it just hit a spot in my brain or whatever and made me think, Max, you're too often you do what everybody else wants instead of what you want. And so I hope more people have those moments in their lives where they think, well, the heck with everybody else. What do I want?
Yeah. But sometimes what you want will not please other people.
This is true.
And I think that stops a lot of people. We don't want to rub people the wrong way.
No. And I went through that. I went through that too. When I wrote the blog post, Life Lessons from a Blind Blogger for Aha Now, and I shared that with a fellow who I thought was my friend, and I still kind of think of him as a friend. He was a radio show host over on Blog Talk, and I shared that with him, and I was really proud and excited about it because it was already starting to get lots of comments because of the power of Harlina Singh. I shared it with him, and he's like, Max, you're too good to be emphasizing the fact that you're blind. You don't need to do this. And we actually don't talk anymore because of that article and eventually me starting the website, The Blind Blogger. So you're right. A lot of times people that you see as friends or...
Wait a minute. You don't talk because you started the website, The Blind Blogger.
Well, we don't talk because he still thinks that I am demeaning myself and lowering myself to even mention the fact that I'm blind, because to him, he never really thinks of me that way.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, it's just one of those weird things that gets in people's heads. And
well, it's crazy, the perceptions.
Oh yeah, it's perceptions crazy. Are definitely very crazy, and and the thing is I still consider him. I did his show on a regular basis for like 6 months, and I think a lot of my ability now to come on anybody's show and have a great conversation and talk about whatever I need to. I credit him for giving me the opportunity to build up my interview skills, to get prepared for doing lots of other shows. And that old internet post that makes the rounds about once a year or so, where it talks about some people coming to your lives for a season or for a reason. And I think that part of the reason why we parted ways was because if something hadn't happened to get between us, I would probably still be doing his show every week, but I wouldn't be doing all the other stuff that I'm doing. So I think it was I think it was at that point where, okay, Max, you're ready to go do, more other stuff. You're a wrestling fan. A lot of people talk about how great Stone Cold Steve Austin was when he got to the WWE.
How come you know so much of wrestling, man?
Not a lot of people realize that the reason he was so good when he got to the WWE is because he spent about a year in ECW with Paul Heyman.
How the hell do you know that? You're a wrestling fan too. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know that. But I just want to make the point. Let me finish the point. At that time, Stone Cold was recovering from an injury and could not wrestle, but Paul Heyman paid him to record. Paul Heyman paid him to record what they call promos, just to come out and run his mouth every week. And Stone Cold Steve Austin went out every week for about a year and just ran his mouth, and he got really good at being on the microphone. And that's how you get a guy like Steve Austin. And I think I mention it because, like I said, I did about 6 months with Brian the Hammer Jackson on Blog Talk every Friday morning, and I think a lot of that has definitely helped me as far as just getting in the flow of a conversation and answering whatever question comes next. Yeah, I'm a wrestling fan. I admit it. I'm more fan of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s than I am of the current crop, but.
Wow, I'm surprised about that.
I'm definitely hopeful that the new ownership of TNA is going to bring a rebirth to that company.
Okay, you're deep into it. You really know it. Like you really, really know it. Oh my gosh. Okay, but that's cool. I didn't know that, man.
Yeah, I should also mention that a lot of people in the performing arts, like opera and musical theater, a lot of those people are wrestling fans because they see parallels between the bigger than life characters in wrestling as alongside the bigger than life characters in opera and in musicals. And a lot of people from the carnival world are fans of wrestling because, you have to realize once upon a time, those guys wrestled on midways around the world.
Wow. Okay. I see.
I've got a friend over in the UK that still they have some old photos of their family operating what are called boxing booths, where people would actually come out and fight bare knuckles on what they would call the cobbles in England. It's just crazy. Some of the stuff that was, we're talking turn of the century, but it would happen on midways, pretty much anywhere that there was carnivals or circuses or sideshows, you'd have boxing or wrestling.
Wow. Yeah, all right. Another part of your book is you say, look at the big picture, describe your success. I think you kind of touched on it, but you say, look at the big picture. What does that mean?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with your overall goal and then some of the lesser goals that get you towards it. To me, I try to remember that it's the stuff you do every day that gets you to the big goal or to the big picture. And a lot of times you have to, you start with the big goal and then you make a list of the things you have to do to get there, the resources, skills, or talents. And then you pick at least one of those that you can do something about right away and start moving towards the big goal. The big goal, you have to keep it in the back of your mind, but you can't let the distance between you and that goal overwhelm you. A lot of times people, they start thinking about everything they'll have to do to get there, and then they just say the heck with it and don't go.
Would you say, and this is what I'm finding out right now with goals of mine, there's a difference, because we often talk about the law of attraction and visualization and all that stuff. And I think there's a difference between imagining your goal and actually rationally understanding the steps to get there. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it definitely makes sense. And as far as rationally understanding the steps that get there, one thing I can guarantee is there'll be at least one, if not more than one, step along the way that you didn't put on your list that you will have to figure out some way to overcome when it comes along. That's just the rational. But the thing is a lot of times people get too rational. They concentrate too much on every little detail, every little step, every little thing they'll have to get there, and they scare themselves out of it. So in my book, I talk about, making the list of the things you'll have to do and then only focusing on the things that you have to do for today, this week, or this month. Because if you try to focus on everything you're going to have to do and, how long you think it'll take you to do them before you get to where you're going, then you're not going to get there. I'll give you a perfect example. When I decided to start the Midway Marketplace, I didn't have a clue how I was going to actually have the website, but I knew the first step was to file for a domain name. And so I called my brother up and I said, Michael, I want to start the website and actually try to make a profession out of selling other people's equipment. And I think we should call it midwaymarketplace.com, see if it's available. And if it is, file for the domain name. And he did, and it was. And 5 months later, I finally had a website. The only reason I had a website was because he built it for me. He went and he created, I think we had 5 pages. Let's see, we had welcome, about, contact, and equipment listings and references. So yeah, we had 5 pages. And on the equipment listings, he found a thing from SourceForge that would allow me to upload photos and write descriptions for the equipment without having to actually know how things ran. So, I knew if I was going to be making this thing a profession, I needed to have a website, but I didn't know how I was going to make the website. And just basically, go and figure it out one next thing at a time. And unfortunately or fortunately, about 6 months after we started the website, Michael got a really high paying job working for a carnival company on the East Coast. And so I have a website, but no way to update my website other than adding or deleting equipment listings. And, I wanted to do more. I wanted to have a featured listing section on the front page. I wanted to have links pages. And so I had to figure out, well, how am I going to do this? And so I started asking people questions. I started going to forums, and eventually somebody steered me to the w3c.org school of online tutorials. And I started going through those one by one and then trying and practicing and then doing them on my website and asking people how I did. And so, then after I got pretty good with the website, people were like, Max, you need to have a blog. Well, I don't know what a blog is, but we'll find out and we'll do that next. So,
right.
A lot of times with that big goal, you have to decide what is more important to you. Do you want to do what you can now, or do you want to obsess about everything that you can't or not sure you can? Because it doesn't matter what the goal is. There's going to be lots of stuff you can't do right this minute.
Right. All right. So once again, we're here with Maxwell Ivey. Yes, he's a blind blogger. He's the author of Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, a blind man's inspirational journey to success. And also he's the host of the What's Your Excuse show with Mike Ivey, known around the world as the blind blogger. And this is a fascinating interview, but right before continuing this conversation, we would like to thank those who pledged to our Patreon page. You are really helpful to the show, and we are grateful for your help. In case you're wondering, Patreon is a simple way for you to contribute to the network every single month and get super cool exclusive rewards in return. I promise you'll love the perks. Our Patreon page is at frederickby.com, and click Patreon in the header. Money is used to cover production costs and editing time, and you can contribute for as low as $1 a month. Hey man, anyone can afford that. So go to frederickby.com. That's Frederick with a C, buy like bye-bye.com, and click Patreon in the header. I'm sorry. All right. So, we got a few minutes left. Talk about being motivated, and you, in your book, you talk about staying motivated by taking the small steps. So we talked about the big picture. Okay. And, it seems to me that some people, they're just good at the big picture, but if you just have the big picture, you're a dreamer. And at the same time, if you're just take care of the small steps, you don't see the big picture, then you're stuck somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, how do you balance both? I mean, you got to balance both, don't you? And how do you stay motivated by taking those small, sometimes boring mechanical steps?
Well, the part you left out is that after you take those small, boring mechanical steps, you have to celebrate those small, boring successes and reward yourself in some way for the fact that you did them, because there are jobs that in anything that you love, there's still going to be jobs that you hate. When it comes to the Midway Marketplace, I hate adding new links, but the thing about it is every time I add a new link, I increase my email list by one more email address. And other than posting to amusement industry based groups on Facebook, the most successful return on investment for my time or money is the email newsletter. So while I hate it, I realize that it's something that I have to do if I want to continue to grow my mailing list, which is one of the best ways that not only is the best way that I sell the stuff I have, it's also the best way that I attract new listings. So that's just one example.
So basically,
yeah, it is a balancing act. You do have to have that, that vision. You do have to take those small steps, but you do have to reward yourself and celebrate for every victory, no matter how small, which is why I like to tell people that no vision board is complete without a gratitude border.
Yeah. You said that in your TV interview. That was really good.
I know. I don't remember when I first said that, but it's been one of those things that I'm like, man, that makes a lot of sense. And I don't know where it came from, but I need to go somewhere and trademark that, because that's a good line.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
I need to trademark
where do you get that inspiration? You know what I mean? Like, where do you get your inspiration from?
Well, I read a lot. I hang out with good people online. I watch a lot of TV, old movies, listen to old time radio shows.
Why the old time radio shows are better than new ones?
Well, like like the stuff from the 30s and 40s and 20s, stuff like
really?
that.
Why?
Yeah. Well, I just enjoy it. It's
okay.
it's one of the few forms of entertainment that the blind enjoy just as much as the sighted. It's to some extent I think I enjoy it more. But I live with my family, and that's my mom, my brother, his son, our crazy dog Penny that most people know about by now. There's inspiration all around you. You just have to decide that you're going to be inspired when it hits you. I enjoy anything that's funny. And something I recently read in Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert is she said, when you don't have passion, curiosity is the next best thing.
Yeah.
And yeah. I'm one of these people who pretty much all my life I've been that kid who had his hand up to either ask a question or answer one from the teacher. So I love a good question. One of my favorite things to have happen during an interview is for a host to ask me a question nobody's asked before, or in a way nobody has put it before. I like that. But a lot of it is, like I said, I do read a lot, and not just personal development, self-help biographies, but quite a bit of good fiction. And I also have recently come around to the idea that sometimes the mind needs a trashy novel just as much as sometimes the body needs a Snickers bar.
Oh,
don't tell my gastric surgeon I said that, okay?
You should trademark that one too.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's not as good as the other one, but it's pretty good. But I think far too often people get the idea that if they're going to improve themselves, they have to read Wayne Dyer or Joyce Meyer or Joel Osteen or Schwarzkopf or George Bush or somebody that will inform or enlighten or inspire. But there are other times when the best way to get your mind out of a rut and, have some new ideas or some new inspiration is to just get lost in the pages of a really good book or in the story of a really good movie.
I received for Christmas The Spy, the latest book from Paulo Coelho, and every time I read these books, it's fiction, but you learn something, and it's just like you say, you lose yourself in the book, and it's a book I recommend really. But
well, I recently was reading one of the Dresden File books by Jim Butcher, and noticed that he was making a point in there that that a lot of people have probably struggled with. He was trying to teach his apprentice that you can't do the right thing for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm. Right.
A very powerful lesson being taught by a great storyteller.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Assess your failures, reevaluate, and repeat. Failure. Sometimes disappointment, you're disappointed by a business, you're disappointed by an industry, you're disappointed by people. And it seems to me that it's when you're disappointed that most people stop, give up, stay bitter, or, you know what I mean? And how do you overcome that? I mean, it's humbling to assess your failures in many ways, because you got to look at your failures.
Yeah, to start with, I really don't even like to use the word failure. I prefer to go with setback or disappointment or some, because to me, it just doesn't seem. It seems like very few things in your life would actually fit the description of a failure. But I guess that's just me and the connotations I have in my mind for the word. But a lot of times it just comes down to, are you willing to forgive yourself or forgive the other people or forgive the circumstances that caused your setback? Because as you mentioned there, a lot of times it is disappointment with yourself or with other people that's got you in this place where you're not able to try something new the next day or next month or when the next opportunity comes along, because you still remember what happened in your most recent experience, and you just haven't figured out a way of letting go of that yet. And there are lots of people who talk about how you can't move forward if you're bringing all that stuff from the past along with you. So I've always been more of a today and tomorrow person instead of a yesterday kind of person. Yeah. But a lot of it just comes down to deciding whether or not you're I think it's just deciding which is more scary, which scares you more, failing again or missing out on an amazing opportunity because you wouldn't try. Mm-hmm. Because they're both scary, To me, the scarier prospect is what if I had asked and they had said yes? That's, to me, that worries me more than, what if I ask and they tell me, I can't believe you even thought I might be interested kind of response. So, which used to happen to me quite often when I was booking our carnival. So.
I'm learning, I'm always learning stuff, and I'm learning to trade and stuff like that. But I realize I hate losing more than I love to win. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because most people remember their failures better than they remember their successes, and they remember them for longer. And I can tell you for a fact that when I was in school and in college, if I got a question wrong on a test, I would never not know that answer again. But there were things that I would get right that I might have to go back and learn again later. But if I got it wrong, it stayed with me. So yeah, that's perfectly normal. That's pretty common with most people.
Hey, we're gonna wrap this up. You talk about goals. Your book is about goals, and what are your goals for 2017?
Well, for starters, I've got to finish my book based on my Amtrak experience.
And what is your book about?
Well, it's about it's about my transition. becoming the blind blogger, applying for the competition, and then going on my trip and, sharing some of what happened and what I've learned from it. I'm working on a book tour, possibly doing book signings and speaking later in the year. I'm working with my good friend Bill Moore from A Smiling World. He's trying to help me as far as figuring out he's helping me as far as filing sponsorship applications, because he's done a lot of business plan stuff with Small Business Administration where he's from, so he's familiar with the process. So we're trying to get Amtrak and some other people to sponsor a tour based on the book. And, that's one of those things I don't know for sure if it'll happen, but at the very least, the one thing I did learn in New York is that I have now figured out how to use Uber. So while in the past I was hesitant to really try to book speaking engagements locally because I wasn't sure how I would actually show up if one came along, I now know that within, say 40, 50 miles of my house, I can get there from here if I need to. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be doing, because there are a lot of opportunities for public speaking, especially if you don't absolutely have to get paid. A lot of libraries are interested in people to do talks, and it's a good way to promote a book. So that's something.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to continue to do the radio shows and the podcasts. Continue to be online publicist for people, and see if I can't get just continue to grow the businesses and do what I'm doing, and see whatever new opportunities and challenges happen to come along. It seems like whenever I get to the point where I feel like I'm pretty comfortable in what I'm doing, then something else will show up and, will force me to really stretch myself. This trip to New York was probably the first time in several years where even I was nervous about it, and it all worked out pretty well. So I'm actually curious to see what is coming next, and, not really knowing what it will be or when it will happen, but I like to tell people that the one thing I never do is I never put limits on God, and he may have something. Usually it is the case. His visions are bigger than mine. Right.
So inspiration, baby, inspiration. All right, this has been Maxwell Ivey. Is the author of Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, the Blind Man's Inspirational Guide to Success. Is going to be available in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Do you have a date exactly?
No, I don't have an exact date, but they said it takes 2 weeks for them to review your audio files and make sure it meets all the criteria.
Okay, so that will be around the 25th of January, 2017. That will be published. So pick it up. Hey, you can get it where, Max?
It'll be on Audible and iTunes and at theblindblogger.net.
All right, or Amazon.com. I will put it up on the Creative Magic Store, that's for sure. All right, hey, thank you very much, Max, for this, and good luck, man.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'm always happy to talk with you, my friend, and I was glad I was available for you today. And it's been a great talk. I hope the listeners got something good out of it, and you take care.
All right, thank you, Max. Alrighty, guys. Alrighty, thank you, Max, my good old buddy from Texas, for this great interview. Always a blast to talk to this guy, and really appreciate it. And when you pick up his book from our website at frederickby.com, Amazon kicks back a few bucks to the show, and it helps cover production costs. No additional cost to you, no hidden fees, no nothing. So if you like what you hear, you can help by going over to frederickby.com and click the link to his book in the blog. It is that simple. Just click his page in the blog and click the link to his book at the bottom of the page. Also, if you're just an Amazon shopper, you like to shop, and Amazon is the place to go. When you use our Amazon link, again, it kicks back a few bucks to the show, and it's in the sidebar. Our Amazon link is in the sidebar for all your online shopping. It's really simple. You can even bookmark it to find it easier. We have it for the UK, Canada, and US of A. Also, we're looking for new hosts on the network. If you're if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a message to spread, hey man, contact us. Check us out. See what we can offer you. And you want to be part of a cool team. Ooh, yeah, a cool team. Just go to frederickby.com and click Become a Host in the header. Also, the Creative Magic Store is open, alive, and well. It's designed with meaning, meant to inspire you, tap into your intuition, and add a little bit of magic into your life. frederickby.com, click Creative Magic Store in the header. We have t-shirts, mugs, DVDs, a bunch of cool stuff, really cool stuff. And also, this podcast is free every time you download it on iTunes, Stitcher. It is listener supported. Tell a friend, leave a 5-star review. It really helps a brother out. Ooh, yeah, a brother out. And with this, it's time for me to ride off into the sunset for another amazing interview. We'll see us next time. And don't forget, live with purpose, passion, fire, and love. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Frederick Bai Show. For more information, go to frederickby.com. That's Frederick with a C, Bai like bye-bye.com.